A midnight hush blanketed Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri as Major Alana Reyes moved silently across the dimly lit hangar. Before her, the B-2 Spirit bomber loomed like a shadow given form, matte black and sleek, almost alien in its design. Codenamed Ghost Rider 1, it was one of the most advanced pieces of military engineering ever created, silent, invisible, and deadly. Reyes had flown it through training drills and simulated runs, but never on a mission of this magnitude. Not this deep, not this critical. Inside the mission briefing room just hours earlier, she had stood alongside a handful of other elite personnel. No more than a dozen souls cleared for Operation Night Whisper. A wall-sized digital map displayed the target, Iran's Fordow nuclear enrichment facility, buried beneath 80 meters of mountain near Qom. Officially, the United States still supported diplomatic containment. Unofficially, intelligence reports and Israeli signals suggested Fordow had moved past thresholds. Uranium was being enriched at levels unacceptable to global security, and Iran had pulled out international inspectors. The clock, once patient, had begun to tick too loudly. "You're not destroying Fordow," the NSA liaison had said plainly. "You're cutting its throat without making it scream." It was a surgical strike. 2 B-2 bombers, 4 decoy drones, and a cyber layer thick enough to mislead every radar and satellite across a third of the Middle East. Major Reyes would lead the airborne component, flying in from the Indian Ocean with a second B-2 trailing 2 minutes behind. Cyber operations would originate from an NSA node in Ramstein, led by a technician Reyes had only met via encrypted feed, Tariq O'Neill, soft-voiced, brilliant, and reportedly the architect of the radar-spoofing AI known as Phantom Layer. While Reyes prepped her aircraft halfway across the world in Tehran, General Faramarz Javadi was walking briskly down the stone corridor of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' aerospace command bunker. His phone buzzed in his coat pocket. Another alert. High-frequency radar anomalies off Iran's southern coastline. The third one in 2 days. These readings didn't fit any known drone signature, and every missile defense operator under his command had been briefed on the risk of deception, ghosts in the radar, fake swarms, phantom squadrons. "We're being tested," Javadi said aloud to his aide. "But by who?" The man didn't answer. Israel was always a suspect, but Israel's methods were blunt, confident, and politically timed. This felt quieter, more calculated. Javadi stopped inside the command room and studied a stream of new data. What troubled him most was not the frequency of radar pings, but their irregularity, like someone was playing music in between their pulses, inserting gaps just wide enough to look natural. It was software, not hardware, which meant someone was speaking a language the IRGC's systems didn't yet understand. Back at Whiteman, Reyes suited up in silence, her focus narrowing. She reviewed the flight plan again. Launch from Diego Garcia under total calm silence. Enter Iranian airspace via the Caspian blind spot. Descend to terrain-following altitude and release 2 massive ordnance penetrators over Fordow's power conduits and emergency exit shaft. The bombs wouldn't destroy the core, but they'd seal it, blind it, and stall centrifuge operations for at least 2 years, possibly more if underground vibrations damaged equipment. What unsettled Reyes wasn't the mission's difficulty. It was the intention behind it. No declaration, no accountability. If successful, it would look like an accident or an act of sabotage from within. The Pentagon would shrug. Iran would rage. The truth would evaporate in a fog of deniability. She liked clarity. There was none here. On the tarmac, engineers gave her the go signal. The bomber's engines whispered to life, so quiet she could feel them more than hear them. Ghost Rider 1 taxied forward under moonless skies, joined moments later by its sister aircraft. Overhead, the stars were dimmed by cloud cover, perfect for stealth. In Ramstein, Tariq O'Neill exhaled as he initiated Phantom Layer. the AI system designed to spoof every radar and satellite signal Iran could deploy. Unlike older systems, Phantom didn't just jam signals. It mimicked false ones, telling Iranian defense networks a comforting lie, that their skies were clear, undisturbed. Tariq's job wasn't to make Iran go blind, it was to make them look in the wrong direction. "Layer is clean," he said over comms. "Decoys are lit, confirming visual ghosts over Bushehr and Bandar Abbas." Reyes listened through a secure earpiece as her cockpit dimmed. Her bomber became a shadow within a shadow, moving faster than sound, and yet leaving no sonic trail. As they passed into Iranian airspace, she felt the silence deepen. Everything was working. Back in Tehran, General Javadi frowned as his systems updated. A new anomaly. Radar bloom near Isfahan, then gone. Another glitch? A decoy? Or something more? He turned to his aide. "Get me live feeds from Fordow, now." Far underground, inside the nuclear facility, security cameras rotated with slow precision, unaware that the mountains above them were no longer whole. High in the sky, Reyes unlocked her payload, the first MOP humming as it slid into drop position. A voice buzzed in her ear. 70 seconds to strike window. She nodded, breath steady, eyes hard. Somewhere beneath her, deep under rock and steel, a bunker built to be invincible waited for a blow it couldn't see coming. 70 seconds became 60, then 45, and still the Iranian skies showed nothing but silence. Major Alana Reyes maintained course, her fingers steady on the throttle, her mind measuring each tick of the clock like a heartbeat. The B-2 Spirit bomber soared invisibly above the mountains, just kilometers from Fordow, where tons of reinforced concrete and solid earth protected centrifuges spinning at the threshold of weapons-grade enrichment. She adjusted her trajectory by 2 degrees to align with the target vector, the ventilation shaft that doubled as Fordow's Achilles heel. The bomb wouldn't obliterate the core, but if the shaft collapsed, oxygen flow and access tunnels would be compromised. The second target, a backup power hub buried deeper, would follow in a separate pass. At Ramstein, Tariq O'Neill's palms hovered over his interface, guiding Phantom Layer's evolving signals. Iran's radars were lighting up with false squadrons over Bandar Abbas and Karaj, 200 miles from the real threat. His AI was generating fake engine signatures, mimicking Israeli drones and decoy missiles that didn't exist. Iranian air defense crews were scrambling to intercept Phantoms, while the true predator floated silent above calm. "IRGC just launched interceptors," he said, "but not at us." His voice was cool, detached, but inside he marveled at how easily the deception was working. Modern warfare wasn't about brute force. It was about guiding your enemy's eyes away from the knife at their throat. In Tehran, General Javadi stood in the command chamber, staring at a spread of red alerts blinking across the Persian Gulf. None of them made sense. Every time he ordered a recalibration, the targets vanished. He'd spent decades learning to detect patterns in chaos, but this felt like fighting a shadow. He rubbed his temple and ordered a thermal sweep near Fordow, not because anything indicated a threat there, but because instinct pulled him toward the quiet. Inside Fordow's underground complex, engineers were unaware of the hunter above. The facility's hum was routine. Data streamed across control panels. No one saw the thin dot overhead, descending through cloud and night. Reyes released the first bomb. A silent release, a freefall guided by GPS and terrain imaging software designed to account for every contour, every gust of wind. Then came the sound, a distant muffled tremor as the earth swallowed the weapon. A second passed, then a rupture. Beneath the mountain, the power station exploded, sending vibrations through reinforced walls and plunging 1/3 of the facility into darkness. Lights flickered, alarms wailed, and emergency shutters sealed themselves. Fordow's personnel reacted too slowly to understand. The ground didn't shake like an earthquake. It shook with purpose. On her second pass, Reyes released the second mop, its target, the emergency shaft leading to one of the oldest centrifuge arrays. It fell true and struck with terrifying precision. Steel twisted, concrete shattered, and a vacuum hiss filled corridors deep underground. Javadi's command center erupted in confusion. Operators shouted about explosions, seismic events, possible accidents. Fordow's internal cameras had cut off. Communications were scrambled. And yet, the national radar grid still showed no sign of enemy aircraft. Nothing. Not a trace. "Sabotage?" one of his aides asked. "No," Javadi whispered. "It's a strike. And we never saw it coming." As smoke coiled through Fordow's upper levels, engineers scrambled to initiate failsafes. The damage wasn't total, but it was exact. The systems most vital to long-term enrichment were offline, perhaps permanently. Worse, Iran's strategic pride, its claim to invulnerability, had been shattered. In the skies above, Reyes veered westward, silent as myth, already moving to exfiltration. Her instruments showed no tailing aircraft. Mission time: 11 minutes. Contact with target: 0. She said nothing, but the ghost of a smile flickered behind her oxygen mask. Tariq, still watching Phantom Layer's performance, noted the first Iranian cyber countermeasures. They were trying to shut down the false signals, to recalibrate their grid. It was too late. He leaned back, exhaled, and initiated the extraction script. All false data would vanish from Iranian systems within 5 minutes. No traces, no proof, only confusion, suspicion, and empty explanations. Hours later, Iranian investigators found an unexploded casing buried near the auxiliary shaft. Its design was foreign, sleek, unmarked, and unfamiliar. No serial number, no residue. It was built to disappear from history, even as it struck it. In Tehran, Javadi reviewed the report in private. He felt a slow burn building in his chest. Not just anger, but a deeper frustration. Someone had walked into his backyard, struck his house, and vanished before the door creaked open. Whoever it was, they weren't seeking war. They were making a statement. That they could. His phone buzzed again. International media already had the story. Explosion at Iranian nuclear site. Accident or attack. Israel denied involvement. The United States issued a vague statement about regional instability. Russia remained silent. The world shrugged. No evidence, no war. Javadi poured himself tea with a hand that trembled ever so slightly. The next battle, he thought, wouldn't be fought over land or oil or territory. It would be fought over who got to tell the story first. Dawn broke pale and indifferent over the Alborz Mountains, casting long shadows over a shaken Fordow facility. Deep underground, the lights had returned, but the certainty had not. Emergency crews worked in grim silence, assessing the aftermath. 2 of the main enrichment chambers remained intact, but power systems were crippled. Structural stress ran through the ventilation shafts, and the damage to morale was far worse than the physical destruction. The engineers had no idea what hit them. Some whispered it was a drone, others, sabotage. But no one could explain how the most secure nuclear site in the country had been breached without warning. In Tehran, General Javadi stood before a crisis committee behind closed doors. He laid out the findings without embellishment. 2 strikes, underground penetrations, no confirmed aircraft. An unidentified device had been recovered from the rubble, but it was unlike anything in Iran's arsenal or that of known adversaries. It bore no signature, no heat residue, nothing digital to trace. It might as well have been dropped by a ghost. He didn't say it aloud, but everyone at the table knew. Only one aircraft in the world could do what had been done. The American B-2 Spirit. Yet without proof and with Washington issuing a flat no comment, what could they do? "We respond quietly," the senior advisor to the Supreme Leader declared. "We repair. We do not give them the satisfaction of a reaction." Javadi didn't respond. His pride had already been wounded enough. Elsewhere in the city, Samira Rashti sat in a sterile analysis room, poring over the remains of the unexploded casing recovered from Fordow. Her expertise in military AI systems wasn't meant to be public, but after the cyber deceptions that surrounded the strike, her insights were now in demand. The casing was built of composite alloys unknown to Iranian labs. No circuitry, no signature. But embedded deep within the material, under a layer of micro-lattice foam, was a single data node. She isolated it. Accessing it required a bypass technique only someone like her would even recognize. When it finally decrypted, it didn't contain coordinates or telemetry, just a string of code. Elegant, clean, and American. But more disturbingly, she recognized the structure. It wasn't just human-written, it was enhanced, shaped by machine logic. An AI had optimized this code, guided its deployment, and possibly chosen the exact moment to let it be found. She leaned back in her chair, breath caught between disbelief and awe. This wasn't a weapon. It was a message, a reminder that a force existed which could strike without detection, and that it chose not to destroy Fordow completely. In Washington, the president sat in a quiet meeting with his national security advisor and General Devereaux. The mission was labeled tactically successful, though no official report would ever be published. There would be no medals, no headlines, no public footage. The documents would be sealed in digital vaults, and even the pilots involved would be debriefed under black code silence. "We did it," the president said, voice low. "And now?" "We wait," Devereaux replied. "They won't retaliate. They can't. Not without evidence. And if they find some? We designed this so they wouldn't. But even if they did, the world won't believe them." He wasn't boasting. It was just fact. A story untold was harder to weaponize. Major Reyes, now back at Diego Garcia, stood alone near the hangar, her helmet tucked under her arm, watching maintenance crews inspect the B-2. No scratches, no visible wear. It looked the same as it had the day before, as if the mission never happened. Her name wouldn't be in any records. Her success would be measured by its erasure. She had executed flawlessly. 2 targets struck. No losses, no trace. But something about it all felt incomplete. Not morally, not even strategically, but spiritually. The aircraft was a machine. The mission was a ghost. And she, in the middle of it, felt like both pilot and phantom. Later in her debrief, she said only what was necessary. No reflection, no opinion, just procedure. Still, when asked for final remarks, she added one line. The silence was louder than I expected. In Ramstein, Tariq O'Neill wiped the Phantom Layer program from active systems. A backup existed in cold storage, of course, buried under layers of encryption. But its use had passed. Its lesson, however, had only begun to echo. For every radar station that failed to detect the strike, there would now be overcompensation. For every Iranian operator who dismissed the decoys, there would now be paranoia. A dozen militaries around the world were already reviewing their detection systems, asking how to distinguish real from fake, truth from illusion. It wasn't just a tactical evolution. It was a philosophical one. Warfare had changed, and those who couldn't adapt wouldn't even know when they'd been defeated. At Fordow, repairs began under the watchful eye of a nervous government. Systems would be restored. Walls would be reinforced. But in the hearts of those who once believed the mountain made them untouchable, a new awareness had settled. No place was unreachable. No system was invincible. And sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who never claimed the kill.